Oh hey, and welcome to the very first episode of The Blue Wizard Cooks. I'm Joe the Blue Wizard. It's Halloween! Wait, is it actually Halloween? What day is this coming out? Where's my calendar? Oh, thank you. It's the day before Halloween! Halloween Eve! Halloween! Okay. My family, whenever we get together for Halloween, have always had two traditions that have to do with food. One of them was to have a hot dog buffet. But if you need me to teach you how to cook a hot dog, well, leave me a comment down below. I got you. But the second food tradition that we always have at Halloween is to make chili. Now, my father has an absolutely fantastic chili recipe that he has been making for years. This is a recipe that he has given me. However, I have been forbade on pain of death to share the recipe with anybody. So, we are going to make the chili recipe that I make on the regular. It is one of my absolute favorite chili recipes, and probably one of my favorite recipes overall. Now, this chili recipe isn't just good because that's my family's tradition around Halloween. It's also good because it has a very Halloween ingredient added in, which is sort of a surprise. Yes, this chili has pumpkin in it. Now, I know that might sound a little bit strange to you guys, but believe me, it'll make sense once we're actually going through and making the recipe. Not only that, but the pumpkin and the fact that we're going to be using ground turkey instead of ground beef is going to help make this recipe just a little bit healthier. But believe me, it will not taste healthy. It is going to have the most fantastic flavor of any chili you've ever tasted. Trust me on this one. Now, I cannot lay claim to having the idea to put pumpkin into chili. That idea actually comes from America's Test Kitchen through their book Nutritious and Delicious, which is one of my favorite cookbooks. They have an absolutely great recipe for pumpkin and turkey chili here in this book. But the recipe is a little bit complicated, and there are some things in it that I'm not a big fan of. So what I've done is I've taken the recipe and made it into my own. And so that's what I'm going to share with you today. But that's enough talking about it. It's time for me to show you how to make it, because of course you are all going to be making this for your Halloween parties as well. So let's get cracking. Alright, now that we're here in the kitchen, we only have one thing to do, and that is to get all of our ingredients together in one place. This way we have everything we need, where we need it, when we need it. So let's get cracking. Alright, there you have it. Everything is assembled. And you will notice that I even have, like on the TV shows, all of my little canned goods taped over with the brand name. Because, oddly enough, Trader Joe's did not reach out to me in order to sponsor this video. Which is weird, because I shop there basically every week. And I mean, when you think about it, I have like, what, 200 subscribers on YouTube right now? I'm practically famous. I'm obviously the Guy Fieri of YouTube. So, Trader Joe's, you're missing out. In all seriousness though, there's going to be a little bit of prep work before we actually get started cooking anything in this recipe, and that is true with any recipe really that you're going to do. You want to make sure that you're getting some stuff done ahead of time so that when it actually comes time to cook stuff, it all goes a lot faster. One of the things that I notice that people really struggle with when they're cooking is they feel that everything's moving too quickly. Well, one of the things that they're doing wrong is they're not getting everything together and getting everything prepped before they actually start the cooking. And that's why you feel the stress and anxiety. So if you do a lot of the prep work ahead of time, then you don't have to worry about it, and cooking is a breeze. So in that interest, I've already chopped up 2 onions and 2 red bell peppers and 6 cloves of garlic, which comes out to about 3 tablespoons of garlic. Oh, and by the way, if you ever want to remember the exact measurements and procedure of this recipe, the recipe is always posted down below the video. So as I mentioned before, this is an idea that originally came from America's Test Kitchen. And one of the things that they do in a lot of their recipes that involved cooked turkey, ground turkey, is they add a little bit of baking soda to the turkey in order to make sure that it stays moist throughout the entire cooking. Because anyone who's done anything with ground turkey before knows that sometimes it can dry out. But this trick actually really works. If you add a little bit of baking soda, I'm going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda to 1 pound of ground turkey, and about a tablespoon of water, which is already in here. And then I'm just going to mix it together. You want to get all of the baking soda and water fully incorporated with the turkey. That's alright, nobody has to eat that bit. There you go, the turkey's all prepped, minus that little bit. But I'm gonna set this aside for now, just to rest and relax while I'm prepping everything else with the recipe. And anytime that you're doing anything with raw chicken or turkey, you wanna make sure that you wash your hands right away afterwards. So I'm gonna do that and clean up the little bit of turkey off the floor. All right, I'm clean, the floor's clean, everything's clean. Now it's time for us to move on to making our spice mixture. Now you can buy chili spice mixture in the grocery store. However, you never know exactly what they're putting into it. So we're gonna make our own spice mixture here that's going to make sure that we know exactly what's in it. And plus, I think in general, it tastes a lot better than the stuff that you can buy in the grocery store. So let's get started with that. The first ingredient that I'm going to be adding into my spice mixture is ground coriander seed. Now, you can buy it already ground. I just happen to have the whole seeds and I ground them together in my mortar and pestle. But I actually did check in the grocery store yesterday and they do sell it pre-ground, so you don't have to grind it yourself. I'm just a little extra, as we should know by now. So in this bowl, I already have 1.5 teaspoons of ground coriander. And the next thing I'm going to add is some dark chili powder. You can also find it called ancho chili powder in the grocery store. And I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of this. Now I know that this sounds like a lot, but remember this is called chili for a reason. It has a lot of chilies in it. It has a lot of chili powder. So 3 and 4, and that's just perfect. So we're also going to add 1.5 tablespoons of ground cumin, 1.5 teaspoons of dried oregano, and 1.5 teaspoons of paprika. I'm using regular paprika here, not smoked. And then I'm just gonna take and stir that spice mixture together. And there you go. Now that everything's prepped, it's time for us to actually get started cooking. So I have a 5-quart Dutch oven sitting on my stove over here, and I'm going to turn this on to a medium heat. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons or 2 turns around the pan of olive oil. And once that heats up to the temperature where it starts shimmering in the pan, then we can start adding ingredients. All right, now our oil is nice and well heated, so it's time for us to start adding in our vegetables that we chopped up earlier. So here we have our 2 onions and our 2 red bell peppers that we want to get into the pan. Once they're in the pan, we're going to give them a nice stir just to get them evenly coated in all of the oil, because we want to make sure that all these vegetables cook nice and evenly. Once that's done, we can take and give them a little sprinkle of salt just to make sure our vegetables are nice and well seasoned, and then give them another stir again. And we want to stir them every couple of minutes on the heat until they start to soften up a little bit. And eventually they'll look like this. Our red bell peppers are starting to soften up and our onions are starting to turn translucent, which is exactly what we're looking for. So now it's time to add in our ground turkey. And here we go. Now that that's in, we're going to give it a good stir and make sure it's well mixed up with the vegetables. And I understand here it looks a little, gross. So, but that's okay. Just keep stirring it. I promise it'll start to look good. After a few minutes, it's going to start to look like this. Woohoo. So our turkey is nice and cooked through. You don't see any pink anymore. All you see is cooked turkey, cooked vegetables. That's good. So now we can add in our spices. I'm going to add in the garlic that I minced up earlier, as well as the spice mix that I made earlier. And then we're going to give all of that a nice stir. You want to make sure that you're stirring this until all of the spices are well combined with the vegetables and the meat. Also, you want to make sure that a nice, delicious fragrance is coming off of your pan. That's what you're looking for here. I have to say, I imagine there are some parts of heaven that smell like this. Also, Texas. So now that that's all mixed in, we can add in our 28-ounce can of tomatoes and our 15-ounce can of pureed pumpkin. Not pumpkin pie filling, pureed pumpkin. So you want to make sure you add this because this is what we are using to thicken up our chili. Normally, chili recipes use tomato paste or flour to thicken it up. We're using the pumpkin, which is going to add a lot of extra nutrition. But I promise it won't taste like pumpkin. It's going to taste like regular old chili. But the pumpkin's going to thicken it up and give a nice healthiness to it. We can also add in our 2 cups of water, which is going to help to make things a little bit more loosey-goosey, and give it a good stir. Get everything to be well combined. And after you stir it up for a bit, you can even notice that you don't even see the pumpkin anymore. And now we can increase our heat to a high heat to bring it up to a simmer, which is what you're seeing here. You can see the chili is starting to bubble up all around the edges, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Once you've achieved that stage, you can take the lid of your Dutch oven and place it right on top of your pot, and we're all ready to go. So now that our chili is simmering and we have the cover on our pot, we're going to take and reduce the heat down to low and let that simmer away for a good hour. Remember, chili does take a little bit of time if you want to get nicely developed flavor. So I'll see you back here in an hour. All right, so we've been on a nice low heat for about an hour now. So now it's time that we're going to add one of the final ingredients into the mix. I'm going to take and uncover the pot. And we're going to give it a nice stir, and you should notice that the chili should still be bubbling away. If your chili's not bubbling during this time, you want to make sure you turn up the heat a little bit, just to make sure that you're getting a nice good bubble on it. You want to have the right amount of heat in order to cook the chili properly. So the next ingredient that I'm going to add now are some kidney beans. I'm taking 2 cans of kidney beans that I have drained and rinsed under cold water. Now, there are some people that say that adding beans to chili is like against the rules or something. I am not one of those people. I really enjoy having some beans in my chili, and I particularly like kidney beans. That's what we always had in chili growing up. So I always add them. But if you're one of those people who doesn't like beans, then, you know, just don't add them. So I'm stirring those in, and I'm going to make sure that it comes back up to a nice simmer. And I'm going to leave this again on the stove for another 45 minutes. But this time I'm going to leave it uncovered. The idea is that as it sits on the stove for the next 45 minutes, the chili is going to get nice and thick and bubbly and a nice good chili consistency. You want chili to be a little bit more stew-like rather than soup-like. So again, we're going to let it sit for another 45 minutes. All right, so the chili has been bubbling away now for about 45 minutes, and it's time for us to take it off the heat. So I'm just going to shut the heat off and give it a good stir. Make sure that there's nothing clumped together or anything like that. And I can see that it's that perfect chili consistency. All right, again, you don't want it to be like soup-like, but you want it to be sort of thick and stewy. I always think that making soups and stews is a very Halloween thing to do. It makes me feel like a witch standing over my cauldron, you know, making some sort of magic potion. But it's not. It's like, you know, delicious, fantastic food that I can eat. All right, so there's one more ingredient that I want to add to this, and it is completely optional, totally up to you whether you want to add it or not. But I always find that with soups and stews that cook for a very long time, that the flavors get very deep, but they can also get a little bit, you know, muddled. So I like to add something to brighten it up. And I'm going to add a little bit of this, Frank's Red Hot. And yes, I am recommending an actual brand for this, because as you know, every hot sauce that you taste is different. And what I'm really looking for is that Frank's Red Hot has a nice like vinegary to it, and that's what I'm looking to add to sort of brighten up the flavors. So I'm going to take and add in just about 2 tablespoons of Frank's Red Hot into the mixture. And I'm just guesstimating on that. And then I give that a good stir. And then the last thing is to give it a good taste for seasoning to make sure that everything is perfect. Just needs a little sprinkle of salt. And there you go. That's perfect. So now that the chili is ready to go, it's time to serve it up and have a bowl. Finally, it's time to dig in. I've also added to the top of this a little bit of Greek yogurt and some shredded cheese, you know, to make it even better than it already was. All right, so let's take a taste. Fantastic. It's wonderful. You can taste the deep chili flavors. You can taste a little bit of that vinegary note from the Frank's Red Hot. You can taste all of the spices and the deep cooking, and man, it's just, you would never know that this was good for you. It's fantastic. It's awesome. It's delicious. You should definitely try it. So make sure that you grab this recipe and try it out with your friends and family, because I know they're going to enjoy it just as much as I do. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please make sure that you hit that like button. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell for notifications so that this way you're notified every time that I post a new video. If you have any questions or if you have any ideas for future videos, please make sure to leave me a comment down below. I love reading your guys' comments and I love answering your questions. Well, sadly, that's all that we have time for today here on the Blue Wizard Cooks. I'm going to go take and finish this bowl of chili. Remember, guys, you don't have to be a professional chef or even a wizard in order to make magic in the kitchen.